name is Billy McCall, and today I will be reading from Olga of Kyiv. I wrote this zine sometime in 2022. Russia invaded Ukraine in February of 2022, and I started researching Ukraine and just trying to understand the history of that area. And sometime shortly after that, I ran across Olga and started reading about her. She lived 1,000 years ago, and it was pretty interesting life story. And so I'm not sure exactly when I released this zine, but sometime in 2022. Olga of Kyiv, the ruthless queen from 1,000 years ago. Every day I wake up and check the news about the war in Ukraine, not sure what to do other than stay informed. I've also been trying to read up and learn a few things about this place I've never been to. Last week I stumbled upon Olga. I'd never heard of her before, but was so taken aback by her story that I thought I would share it with others. Olga of Kyiv lived over 1,000 years ago, born sometime around the year 900 and dying in 969. She eventually became the Princess of Kyiv, ruling over a lot of land and a lot of people. Back then this area was known as Kievan Rus and included modern-day Ukraine, Belarus, and Western Russia. This is where Belarus and Russia get their names. The city of Kyiv, which was founded in 482, was the capital. Here's a map of Kievan Rus, which existed from 879 to 1240. Before we go any further, let's just acknowledge how hard it is to really understand history, especially as Americans. The oldest cities in the U.S. were founded in 15 and 1600s. Kyiv had already been around for 1,000 years at that point. Kievan Rus was mostly inhabited by Scandinavians, yes, pagans and Vikings, all various tribes who spoke Old East Slavic, which later splintered into Russian, Ukrainian, and other languages. Okay, back to Olga. There is a lot to say about her, but I will try to streamline it. Okay, I gotta tell this though. There was a dude named Oleg, not to be confused with Olga, who ruled all or most of Rus back then. Oleg the Prophet, they called him. He had basically adopted a kid named Igor, whom he considered to be his son. He had Igor marry Olga when they were both kids. I bring this up because it's wild how Oleg died. A prophecy had told him that he would be killed by his favorite horse, so he ordered his horse to be cared for by other people far, far away. Many years later, he was told that the horse had died. He figured he must be free of the curse, so he asked to see the remains of the dead horse. So they go and they find the horse corpse, which would be a great band name, Horse Corpse. They go and they find the horse corpse, at which point he walked up and nudged the dead horse's head. That's when a snake sprang forth, bit Oleg on the leg, thus killing him. That's like the craziest story. Okay, so now Oleg is dead, so Igor and his wife Olga are ruling over Kievan Rus. Mostly Igor. He rides around collecting tributes from all the various tribes. Tributes are somewhere between a bribe and a tax, money collected by rulers, or else. Well, one day in 945, he gets a tribute from a tribe called the Drevlians. They pay him, but he isn't happy. He wants more. They won't pay up, so instead they kill him. Igor is dead, which means Princess Olga is now in charge. So this isn't in the zine, but just to clarify, Igor is the king basically, or emperor, or whatever they call it, of all of Kievan Rus, and he's the one going around from town to town. Hey, give me some money, give me some money, give me those taxes, give me these tributes. We gotta keep things going. And then the Drevlians are finally like, dude, fuck your taxes, man. And they kill him. They kill the leader of the whole country. All right, so now Olga is in charge. The Drevlians figure, hey, Olga is in charge. Let's get her to marry one of us. Then we can all rule together. So they send 20 of their men to Kyiv to negotiate with Olga and work out this deal. And this is when Olga really starts to make a name for herself as someone you don't want to fuck with. Olga says, sure, let's do this. Marrying the person who murdered my husband? What a great idea. But let's make it a big ceremony. Go back to your boat and spend the night. Tomorrow I'll send my people to carry you and your boat all the way to my palace, and we'll get married in style." That sounds fantastic to them. The next day, a bunch of Olga's people carry 20 men in their boat all the way into town. Then they throw the whole damn thing into a giant hole that they had dug throughout the night. As Olga stands by the hole yelling profanity, the townspeople bury the men alive, killing all 20 of them. Thus completed phase 1 of her god-awful vengeance. She then contacts the Drevlians, asking them to send their most distinguished men so they could work out future wedding plans. This was pre-internet, so they hadn't heard about the whole buried alive thing that happened to the other guys. When the second group arrived in Kyiv, Olga ordered her people to prepare a bathhouse so the guests might bathe and prepare themselves. What luxury, the Drevlians thought. But as soon as the men were inside, Olga burned the whole thing to the ground. The first group was buried alive, the second group was burned alive. A quick timeout. I don't know if anyone watches Game of Thrones, but that's like Red Wedding right there. Game of Thrones just stealing from actual history that has happened over the years. Alright, back to the zine. All the best Drevlian leaders have now been killed, but she sends word that the wedding was a success. Remember, it's pre-internet, like nobody knows. She will now travel to their homeland to see the tomb of her late husband and celebrate the new partnership with the Drevlians. A huge feast is prepared where lots of alcohol is consumed. Once the Drevlians were good and drunk, Olga gave her men the signal, and bam! They slaughtered every Drevlian in sight. 5,000 men were killed in a single night. Was her revenge now complete? No, this still wasn't enough. Olga went town to town collecting tributes and killing opposition. One city, Iskorostin, refused to play along. They locked themselves within the city walls. Olga surrounded them for a year, but couldn't break them. Finally, she said, "Hey, if every house gives me 3 birds as a tribute, I'll leave you alone." The exhausted people were excited to make peace, and every house sent out caged birds. Olga then tied sulfur to the legs of the birds, set them afire, and released them. The panicked birds flew back into the city over the walls, seeking the safety of their nests. The burning birds went into the houses, the trees, the barns, etc., and caused the entire city to burn to the ground. And that's how Olga came to power. She was the first woman to rule in Eastern Europe. After the absolutely brutal destruction of her enemies, she actually did a lot to improve the lives of her people, and seemed to have ruled very justly for many years until her son took over when he came of age. In the year 948, Olga traveled to Constantinople, met with Constantine, and converted to Christianity. She brought this faith back to Kievan Rus area and was basically the first Christian in that area. The pagan people wanted nothing to do with Jesus, but Olga's grandson became Christian and later converted lots of people. Ukraine today is over 80% Christian, and Olga is a beloved saint in the Christian and Catholic worlds. I assume she repented for the massacres of her youth and made it into heaven no problem. That's the story of Olga of Kyiv. Thank you!